In this video, we're going to talk about turning fractions into decimals. And yes, the fractions can also be represented in decimal notation. And to turn a fraction into a decimal, all we have to do is complete the division. Let's go back to one of our division problems we had in the previous video. When we try to do this division, we get a remainder, and this is what happens. 2 divided, how many times does 2 go into 7? It goes in 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. We do our subtraction, gives us 1. And then, since there's nothing more to bring down, this would be the end of the problem, and this would be our remainder. But when we're turning fractions into decimals, we have to continue the multiplication, and we can always borrow a 0. But before we can borrow a 0, we have to put a decimal point here and in the answer. So we borrow a 0, bring it down. Now we have 10. Now how many times does 2 go into 10? Well, it goes in 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 minus 10 is 0. So now we just completed the division. So 7/2 would be 3½ in decimal notation. So basically, you can think of a fraction as an incomplete division problem. So 1/2 is the same as 1 divided by 2. So let's find out what that is. So we set up our division problem. We put the 1 underneath and 2 outside. How many times does 2 go into 1? 0 times. 0 times 2 is 0. Subtract, we still have a 1. Now we place a decimal point and bring down the 0. How many times does 2 go into 10? 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And that's our answer. 1½ or 1 divided by 2 is 0.5 in decimal notation. Let's work some more problems. Let's say we have a fraction that's 3/4, which is the same as 3 divided by 4. So let's do the long division on this. We put the 3 underneath and 4 on the outside. How many times does 4 go into 3? 0 times. 0 times 4 is 0. Minus, bring down the 3. Now we place a decimal point and borrow a 0. Now we have 30. How many times does 4 go into 30? 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. We do our subtraction, which will give us 2. We bring down another 0. Now we ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 20? That's 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract that, that's 0. Now we are done with our division. So 3 divided by 4, or 3/4, is 0.75. Let's do another problem. Let's say we have a fraction of 1/3. So we place the 1 underneath and 3 on the outside. Let's start our division. 3 goes into 1 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. Subtract, bring down the 1. Now we add our decimal points, and borrow a 0. Bring it down. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. We have a subtract and we get 1. Still got a remainder, so we bring down another 0. and 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, we get a 1. We borrow another 0. Bring it down. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. We get a 1. As you can see, the only number we can possibly get is 3. So this is known as a repeating decimal. 1/3 is a repeating decimal, and we signify that by placing a dash over the 3. So the decimal form of 1/3 would be 0.3 repeating.